So welcome to part 2 of our humility workshop. And last week we went over the major themes that we would cover. And so we're on to the first major theme. Everyone's favorite is called humility. Humility being one of the major ingredients to do with surrender. Just think how much we want to run our own lives and be in charge, and how we always seem to think we know the best way until we start getting a little older, perhaps, and then realize that even when our plans work out, we're not necessarily happy. There was some English philosopher said there's only one thing worse than not getting what you want, and that's getting it. Because we still find, I remember Stanislav Grof, you may know in some of his holotropic breath work, did one of his workshops once, quite something. And he does counseling, and he tends to meet a lot of CEOs, tops of companies, who come to him depressed. And the story says very similar. They struggled for like 30 years to get up the ladder. And there they are in the big office with the big desk, and they have all the power, and they're sitting there. And then suddenly they realize they're not happy. And they're supposed to be happy now. And the next day, they phone him and they come in for depression counseling. So humility. Let's see what the course says. In lesson 152, we lay aside the arrogance which says that we are sinners, guilty and afraid, ashamed of what we are, and lift our hearts in true humility instead to him who has created us immaculate, like to himself, in power and in love. So what he's saying there is true humility is to accept the way we're created by God, perfect, eternal, and not the individual uniqueness. And elsewhere in the course, I remember that when we're sort of having a go at ourselves and thinking that we're real sinners and pretty miserable, Jesus replies, that's a statement of arrogance on your part. He thought, arrogance? We've just beaten ourselves up. And he says, it's arrogance because you believe your opinion of yourself is more correct than God's. Don't think of that at the time, do we? No. In lesson 61, I am the light of the world. It does not describe the self-concept you have made. It does not refer to any of the characteristics for which you have endowed your idols. Your idols in the course is substitutes for God's love. It refers to you as you were created by God. It simply states the truth. So there we, prefer our self-concept that makes the I real. And actually, to be one with God is the greatest terror for our egos, because it's the end of the ego. And of course, it says the ego dissolves when it contacts joy. But of course, there's no Michael or Jill in heaven. I like to remember heaven, there's no place where there's a number greater than 1. There's no Jesus, Holy Spirit, Son of God, that's 3. And we're into dualism again. So there's this, of course, says, heaven is a perfect oneness. That's how it's described. And that's how it still is. It's not humility, the course says, to insist you cannot be the light of the world. If that is your function, God assigned to you. It is only arrogance that would assert this function cannot be for you. And arrogance is always of the ego. As I was saying, our opinion is more correct than God. In the text, it says, humility will never ask that you remain content with littleness. But it does require that you be not content with less than greatness that comes not of you. Your difficulty with the holy instant arises from your fixed conviction that you're not worthy of it. And what is it? What is this but the determination to be as you would make yourself? God did not create his dwelling place unworthy of him. If you believe he cannot enter where he wills to be, you must be interfering with his will. You do not need the strength. You do need the strength of willingness to come from you, but only for his will. So that's one of the descriptions of the holy instant, is suddenly you let in God's love. I was reading one of the other Jesuses, I think it was through Pamela Krieb, said, what's your purpose? He says, your only purpose here is to let in God's love and to give you that happiness. You have no other purpose here. Let him in. But of course, a guilty ego cannot be worthy of God's love, can it? In fact, the ego says we have sinned in the past. Because of that, the separation. We're guilty now, and we fear punishment. My own teacher, Kenneth Watling, says that's the unholy trinity: sin in the past, guilt in the present, and fear of the future. And therefore, we don't deserve God's happiness, love, and joy, but his punishment. Of course, that keeps the ego alive, doesn't it? Perfectly. That's its food. It's miserable, but it's right. Which is, of course, reminds us of that terrible line in the Course, would you rather be right or happy? Talking about Ken, he had something to say about humility that I liked. Looking at the ego without judgment is looking at it with humility. The ego in its arrogance would have us shrink back in horror when we realize the extent of its deception, scheming, and viciousness. This horror comes from the arrogance of trying to fool ourselves into thinking we are egoless, more spiritually advanced than we actually are, or that we are capable of evaluating ourselves at all. Anyone got any comments so far?
I like the challenge of, it's arrogant to think that you know better than God on what your purpose is or who you're supposed to be. I mean, it's a really, really strong reminder that it's not me.
It is. It's perfect, isn't it? We think we're being all humble and hair shirt and beating ourselves up and just being arrogant.
Yeah.
We're just playing the ego game.
Mm-hmm. And we've kind of been brought up in a world, a time in the world where being humble is valued, right? We've been taught, oh, don't talk so highly about yourself. That's rude. So it's a real switch you have to do.
In Australia, we have a phrase, the tall poppy syndrome. If you sort of stand out, they try and cut you down.
Right. It's a good visual.
There's a good visual. Another poppy down.
Yeah.
So that's the real lesson of humility. We're still as God created us, and we need to let that in. And that's the true humility, to say, oh, I'm as you created me, not as I created me. Okay, I'll give it to you. Continuing with that is that we then have to realize we know nothing of importance. So, of course, as egos, we think we know a huge amount. St. John of the Cross, the sort of the mystic of mystics, said, to come to the knowledge that you have not, you must go by the way that you know not. I'll say that again. To come to the knowledge, heaven, that you have not, you must go by the way that you know not. In other words, you must realize you know nothing. Sometimes in the Course, Jesus refers to us as children and babies. They don't know, and they don't pretend to know. They just say, please tell me. But then we get a bit older and it says, I'll tell you. And this also then gets in the way. I had a friend that when we got to the car and I had to unlock it, he would at the same time go for the lever. As I was trying to unlock it, he was trying to unlock the door, and we'd have trouble getting into the car. he was obstructing the whole process. So we know an awful lot about the ego's world, and perhaps how to make wonderful dinners and run computers. But in the Course, it says, if you don't have peace 724, you know nothing. There's another lesson in humility, isn't it? Because we don't, do we? So we know nothing of importance at all. In lesson 25, you perceive the world and everything in it as meaningful in terms of ego goals. These goals have nothing to do with your own best interests, because the ego is not you. This false identification makes you incapable of understanding what anything is for. So when we look out at the world, the ego comes straight in and then analyze it all for its benefit. But the Course will say the only purpose of this world is to learn forgiveness. Nothing else. It's just, the whole thing is a classroom from when you wake up and through your dreams as well. It has no other purpose for the Course. And it's also not to do good works. It's not to go out and heal the sick or teach the Course in Miracles or write books on the Course in Miracles or feed the hungry, unless it's your forgiveness path. There's a hell of a lot to learn about forgiveness when you start teaching this stuff. Yeah, all the mixed receptions you get. It's been a great path of forgiveness. But that's its only function. It's not I'm helping God out here. The Course says, think not you understand anything until you pass the test of perfect peace. The peace and understanding go together and never can be found alone. This is what we were saying a bit earlier. It also says, if you think you're a body, then you're insane. It actually uses the word insane. So there's 4 mad people on this Zoom at the moment. In fact, we're still in heaven, just dreaming of separation. And to be separate, we need separation vehicles, which are called bodies. Even when we have accidents and leave our bodies, we have out-of-body bodies. And then we die and we have after-death bodies, because we still want to be separate. And then we have a dream at night and we have a dream body. We're great body producers, because without a body, how can you be separate? Continuing the Course, it says, to learn this Course requires a willingness to question every value that you hold. Not one can be kept hidden and obscure, but it will jeopardize your learning. No belief is neutral. So every single belief, am I a father, a man, a human? Every one of those is asked to be questioned. And the answer to all that is no. I'm just going to switch my email off here, which I thought I'd done. It's trying to talk to me. I'll leave the email on at the beginning in case we get problems with logging in. But I hope now that we've got the same login for both the healing and the workshops, things will be smooth. It continues, you do not know the meaning of anything you perceive. Not one thought you hold is wholly true. The recognition of this is your firm beginning. You're not misguided. You have accepted no guide at all. Well, we've accepted the guide of the ego, of course. And there's only 2 guides. The mind is split. It's got the ego counselor, the Holy Spirit counselor, and the one who chooses or makes the decision. And every second of the day, we'll listen to one or the other. In fact, progress in the Course is really measured by how often you listen to the Holy Spirit. You know, when you first start, it might be 1%. As time goes by, it might be 10%. Once you're back listening to the ego, you're pure 100% ego again. And then once you're in spirit, you're in spirit. So as that percentage goes up, then you could say your spiritual awakening is increasing. The moment
Why do you think? I'm sorry.
No, I finished.
Why do you think the ego seems so loud in comparison to the Holy Spirit, or is there something?
Yeah, they talk about this in the course. It said it can't be any louder, otherwise it would go against your free will. Now, the ego is the one that shouts at us and really wants to make its presence felt and sort of overwhelms us with its guilt and its fear. But it says, the Holy Spirit is gentle. It doesn't command, it doesn't demand, it doesn't go against your free will. So people complain that, it doesn't speak loud enough, otherwise I'd hear it better. But it says, no, you just so favor the ego, which is so much louder that you can't hear me. And if you follow a path of forgiveness, you'll pay less attention to the ego, and you'll hear me better and better and better. He has a quiet voice. I suppose love does not shout, unless it's trying to stop you falling off a cliff or something. That's the exception. What do you think, Joe?
I was just thinking how, real everything seems.
Doesn't it?
And if you think, well, if I'm just making all this up, it's just so real.
There's a woman in America. She calls herself Mystic something or other. Very interesting woman. One day she had this explosive awakening, and she looked at her room, and it was like the Matrix. It was just energy patterns, like millions of little dots coalescing into, she realized, oh, that must be a chair, and that must be a flower. It wasn't solid, but she recognized these patterns were interpreted by us as objects. And she had this sort of two visions. And then we're like a bubbling quantum mass of particles that we freeze into objects through our consciousness. And then we call them solid. And then we say, well, when I touch, it's solid. But if you took, we're made of atoms. It's got a nucleus with a proton and a neutron and electrons going around. If you stuck every electron on top of the nucleus and then stuck all the nucleuses together, you would be smaller than a speck of dust. And when we do that, it's the outer electrons in this finger touching this finger, and they repel. It's a negative charge. So this is repulsion. If that charge was taken away, everything would pass through. And there's people who learn to do this, and they can pass through walls. And there's those who can bilocate, be in two places at once. The seemingly solid world is not solid at all. But we need it solid for our dream of separation. I remember once actually getting nervous while I was watching the television, and it must have been a weak signal, but the whole picture pixelated. So everything was like little squares. My hair was made a little square. Now my background is teaching electronics. I know how TVs work. And a fear came into me. And I realized, oh my God, this is what it all is really. But through our senses and the way our mind works, we make it all solid, reliable, and trustworthy. But that picture showed me that just behind reality. I mean, you listen to, Jesus speaking through Tina, and Ananda says Jesus has the ability to speak through 10 channels simultaneously. And when I was reading the Way of Mastery books where Jesus comes through JM, they're wonderful books, I find. they sort of follow the Course in Miracles. And JM explained the first time that Jesus spoke through him. He said, I want you to go and bring your friends and just trust me. And Jesus said, he lifted me out of my body. I became out of my body. And Jesus went into my body to do the speaking. But I kept going up and up in all these. And then I was above the earth. And then I shot off into the universe and I was with Jesus. And through the whole session, Jesus was giving me private counsel somewhere in the universe while he was simultaneously speaking through my body to my friends in the room. Now, can you do that in the solid universe? So this is a great realistic dream we're in. And that's where humility comes in again, like, oh my God, what do we really know? What we think is so true and solid. I'm a man here talking to 3 women, absolutely ridiculous. There's just one eternal formless spirit here making up this picture show. I don't know if that helped Jill or made things worse.
I was thinking, I don't think I'm ever going to get out of this at all. I guess it only takes one thing, doesn't it? Just one moment of complete understanding, and all the rest falls into place. It sort of seems a little bit overwhelming, but perhaps it's just that, just one thing. You don't have to know everything. You just have to know one thing perfectly.
Well, it's often been said by these great teachers that their most difficult students are the intellectuals. It's the simple people they can get through, who perhaps haven't read much, and they're just open, like the child again. Please tell me. Well, we might say, well, I read 1,500 books while I was 35, so I'll tell you. No. Humility, please, Michael. Book knowledge and direct experience are extremely different. So, once again, humility is needed. What else does he say? And you say, just one thing. And the Course says, love waits on welcome, not on time. So really all they're saying is, we're asking you to welcome us. And I keep coming across, I'm studying some of the older teachers at the moment I used to look at, for some aspects dovetail well with the Course, like Ramana Maharshi and Nisargadatta Maharaj, really emphasizing, they will say, like, it's really important that you say to yourself, I am Brahman, or I am that. Or the Course would say, I am the Son of God. And I see now how much they emphasize that. And that's undoing the ego statements, I'm unworthy, I'm miserable, I'm poor, I haven't got a partner, things are going wrong. No, I am the Son of God. And God's joy and peace are mine. And it said, this is a fast way. But you have to have made some, experience in your awakening, even to get to that point. Because if I'd said that, 20 years ago, I'm the perfect son and holy the Son of God, I thought, no way. I'll move on to another book, thank you. It's just too mind-boggling even to contemplate. I'm just a guilty sinner.
Do you remember a guy called, Ross Horn? He did, I think it was just, I can't remember the name, something on awakening. That was one of my first introductions to, and it was basically like A Course in Miracles, and he said, nothing has happened. You're asleep, dreaming. It was such a relief to me.
Yes.
To realize that, nothing's actually happened. I'm just dreaming it.
Often in these teachings and in the Course, it says it's like when you wake up from a nightmare in the morning, where you may have killed half a dozen people, and you're dying of guilt and shame, and then suddenly with great joy, nothing happened. And then the Course says, but you didn't wake up this morning. You dream 24 hours a day because you still want the game of separation to continue. And that's why a lot of these people, when they wake up, they fall apart laughing. Oh my God, nothing ever happened. It all seemed so real. I felt so guilty, but nothing actually happened. And sometimes I feel embarrassed. I think I told you about DeMello climbing the house, trying to get into the window. Did I tell you that story? He was a Jesuit and he'd been at spiritual awakening all his life. And he visualized it like this large house. And if he could get in to the top window, he'd make it. And he had all his time trying to buy ladders and make long ladders and train himself to go up the ladder and overcome his fear of heights, and manages to break in through the window. And then he finds out the front door was open all the time. And so, I felt a little embarrassed when I woke up.
It's hard to believe, isn't it, that you would, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I don't feel like, sitting here or just in my everyday life that, God is angry with me and that I'm going to be punished. Now, that's how I feel, every day. But so it's hard to believe that we think that, that we're staying here and believing in this because we're scared we're going to be punished. It just seems ridiculous, doesn't it?
Sounds ridiculous. What the Course says is that when we had that initial thoughts, the Course says into eternity, where all is one, crept a tiny mad idea, which we remembered not to laugh. That was, could there be something better than unity, oneness? What would it be like if I was God? And the Course has said the only difference between you and God is that God created the Christ and Christ didn't create God. But what if we could be number one, the creator? And our power is so great, the Course said, that immediately the wish was granted. And then the horror came. Suddenly we were separate. And we'd never known this before. And there was such guilt. We think we've broken up heaven, knocked God off his throne. He's extraordinarily angry, as you see in the Old Testament. We really think we've done it. And the ego, that thought of separation, says, boy, you have done it. And the Holy Spirit says, no, you haven't done anything. Just having a silly dream. Come and wake up now. God's not upset. And then the ego says, oh, don't listen to him. He's God's general. Grab you by the scruff of the neck and bring you back to God for punishment. And Jesus says the guilt and the horror and the shame was so overwhelming, we could not stay in our minds. We become psychotic. So we created the universe. And now we can project all of our pain and judgment and out there. And we can deny it ever happened. There's a line in the Course that says, forget the battle, forget it ever happened. So we're not in contact with this guilt, except when we read, oh, there might be a nuclear war, and everyone goes crazy. There's God coming for us again. He's found us. He's going to drop a bomb on us. He's going to punish us. Or our partner leaves us. Devastation. Why? Because the devastation of leaving God. They're all mirrors to that initial instant that we have denied, that are provoked on a daily or sometimes a minute-to-minute basis. That's where it all comes from. And that's why Jesus says, you only have one problem. You think you're separate. If you overcome that, every one of your million problems will disappear. But you can't bear to face what you think you've done, though you've done nothing. So you're not in contact with this shame, this guilt, and this deep, deep fear. But you'll see it every day. When you lose your money, lose your job, lose your partner, lose your mother, there it is. So don't worry that you can't remember it. Just deal with what comes up now. There's a very powerful section about who do you think we are in the text, which we'll look at now. This is chapter 31, section 5, paragraph 17. The world can teach no images of you unless you want to learn them. There will come a time when images have all gone by and you will see you know not what you are. So at the moment, I'm a man, I'm a teacher, I'm a father, I'm this, that, or the other, I'm a human. But you will see, you'll know not what you are. It is to this unsealed and open mind that truth returns, unhindered and unbound. Where concepts of the self have been laid by, is truth revealed exactly as it is. So if we have the humility to say, I don't think I know who I am really. I thought I was a mother, but the kids are gone and I don't seem to fit that one now. And then I was a husband, but he's died. I mean, does that mean I'm no longer a wife? And who am I? So there space comes, the Course says, that truth can actually come into. When every concept has been raised to doubt and question, and has been recognized as made on no assumptions that would stand the light, then is the truth left free to enter in its sanctuary, clean and free of guilt. But what's asking there is that all beliefs, however holy, must be laid aside. Remember that line in the Course, in the workbook? Forget this world, forget this course, and come with holy empty hands unto your God. Not something a person first studying the Course needs to read and then drop the book. But as you go down the line, it's asking us to challenge every belief. And if you're not at peace 24/7, then all your beliefs are wrong. They might be a bit closer to the truth than other ones. And then this line comes. There is no statement that the world is more afraid to hear than this. Are you ready for your biggest fear, ladies? I do not know the thing I am, and therefore do not know what I'm doing, where I am, or how to look upon the world or on myself. Yet in this learning is salvation born. And what you are, with a capital W, and what you are will tell you of itself. So when every belief and idea about yourself is gone, the space is created and the truth arises in our awareness and tells us, not in words, but you're the eternal, formless spirit who was never born and can't die. This is the last thing the ego wants to hear. All control is now lost. You had a whole mental framework which you were running your life with, your whole pattern of beliefs, that web, gone. Your whole ego identification is therefore challenged, and the ego will be terrified and will fight back with everything it's got. So the truth is actually revealed to you. You don't go and find it. There's no need to seek. It's just we undo all these obstacles, all these beliefs and statements, and it floods in. And the ego will move from suspiciousness to viciousness as you try that. It is terrified. I think I've mentioned that about once a year I write off for some guidance to a friend who channels a beautiful voice. It's quite strict with me. Sort of tough love guide, you know. And it said I had an anger inside me to do with the world and the separation. And it's how did it phrase it? This anger is the last screams of an ego that knows that it's dying. And it fights back. Don't tell me this is all meaningless. Don't tell me I made up a world that means nothing, except there's a classroom of forgiveness. Don't tell me all these lies in one sense of a nothing. I'm just delaying my return to heaven. I'm just, give me more time and I'll make something better than heaven. Don't tell me that. I've been working very hard at this. And now I'm into good works. Surely that's appreciated by God. No, he just wants you to come home, Michael. And then, boy, will you do good works. You'll walk around here like a lighthouse. Not interested in doing good works at all, but I think in one of James' books, it said, you know, someone wakes up, might be a road sweeper. And it's just this so heavy road sweeper, and that some people will actually change the way they go to work to walk past this road sweeper, because when he smiles at them, it sort of makes their morning. And our teacher of God, you'll find, is in the gutter sweeping and doesn't want some special job running an ashram, you know, or churning out books. Anything from your side on this?
Do you remember that lady? I don't know whether that's the one you're talking about, in New Zealand, who used to
Yes,
in the
yes.
garden. I can't remember her name. Is it Christy or
Chrissy, yeah.
Yeah, Chrissy. Well, I don't know, 12 years ago, maybe more. Now, I was not well, and you gave me her email address, and she did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And she sent an email, and you know the strange thing that I've been looking for it, and I know it was in my bedside table recently, and you know I can't find it, and I hope I haven't thrown it away. I wouldn't have thrown it away deliberately, but I maybe accidentally it's gone. And I would love to read it again, because she sends this thing at first and she just gets a general impression, and then she sends her actual whatever, whoever she channels, what they had to say. Now, I don't remember it all, but what sticks in my mind was she said, it's not for you to go seeking for things to forgive. It's for you to sit and be peaceful and just find pleasures in life. Now, 12 years ago, I was in excruciating pain, and really didn't. I did take. I listened to it, but I read it several times. But I didn't really understand. And it's 12 years later I'm starting to understand, and that's why I really wanted to find it.
Yeah.
Because when you're in incredible pain, you feel like, well, God, I must have so much to forgive, especially the pain. You know, I need to do something. And so I just spent all these years scrambling around, you know, going through my past and forgiving and whatnot, and never feeling truly satisfied with it. And it was only just perhaps just after COVID, I thought, now where's that? I remember something about just sit and be peaceful. Don't do anything. But that doesn't make any sense to me, you know, because we always think, well, I must have, obviously I've got things to forgive. Why would he say that, or whoever it was, you know? But obviously, you know, you have to believe what you hear from someone like that. But I obviously thought I knew better, and now I would love to know what it said. So I'm going to have to see if I can find it.
I don't know how good her records are, but you could email her and see if she's still got it on file. Yeah. Yes, I know this one of trying to find all the obstacles so I can forgive them. And I was told by the MG that is blocking your progress, hunting for all these obstacles. And let's face it, they come up every day anyway, don't they? So I think it's the ego, the spiritual ego, getting back in control again. I'm going to speed this whole process up by finding as many obstacles as I can and go with an express train of forgiveness through them all and wake up tomorrow, perhaps.
Well, the thing about the Course in Miracles is and I've said this to people who have started it, is the ego loves it. It's just perfect for the ego. It's just another thing it can use against you. And boy, it does use it against you. So you have to be very cautious about that and quite alert to the fact that, well, it's just another avenue for it to go down and just turn, it's like those people, and you've probably thought of it yourself at some point. What's the one, Michael, where it says sickness is something against the truth?
Sickness is a defense against the
Yeah,
truth.
and that's what people say to you then. Well, you're doing a course in miracles, so, and you're sick. Why are you sick? You know, you should be better than this. And then you think, oh yeah, how come actually somebody has said that to me. Why do you always get these things? I thought you were into this course in miracles business. And it's like, I don't know, I'm such a failure.
This was so prevalent when I lived in that community, because they might not all have been Course in Miracles students, but they had an awareness that, you know, we create our own reality. But then their egos would get hold of it. And fortunately, we used to have these plays we put on so we could have a bit of fun with ourselves, you know. And there was one smoker's room in the community where all those guilty smokers would go and disappear in clouds of smoke. And one of the plays they put on, they had a scene in the smoker's room, and there were some members in there and some guests. And one of the members came in and slipped and fell on the floor. And one of the members said, "Know what that is, John? That's the stuff you got on your, you know, your manager in the kitchen." Yeah, I can tell that. And then another member looks over and said, "Karma, John, that's karma. You know what happened there? Yeah, I can see that." Another one said, "Well, that's obviously the lack of self-worth you told me about." And then this naive guest comes in and says, "Oh, my dear, can I help you? Can I help you up? Are you all right?" That was the one that was helping. And the other memory that comes back to me, one of the members was sick for about a month, and she could leave a room, but as soon as she did, she was pounced on by members asking about her sickness and had she worked out yet why she was sick, you know, and why not. And she made a badge and stuck it on her that said, "Please don't ask me about my sickness." Yeah, ego's good at that. Yeah. Yeah. And they think they're being kind and helpful and wise. Oh dear. Well, we're a bit over halfway through. I was just, what we need is a change of pace. Normally at this point, I would just pair us up into rooms and we can share things together, and we can do that. But I didn't know if or we could do an exercise. We have exercises, you know, once a month anyway. So normally I would just break us up now, 2 in a room. We'll have 5 minutes each way to share anything we like about path of surrender and what happens in our life. Shall we do that? Does that feel right? Or someone burst in for a healing exercise?
I'm open to either, but I love the healing exercises.
I
like the healing exercise idea.
I could hear the preferences coming in now. And is this healing ourselves or forgiving another?
Could it be either?
It's a little bit difficult to do both in one exercise.
I say ourselves.
Ourselves. Okay.
Very. Yeah.
Right. Okay then. So we'll do an exercise here where we work with something. And of course, it could be on this subject that we just brought up around surrender and humility, and perhaps thinking that we're a failure, that we've been at this a long time and we still haven't achieved peace. So that could well be something to bring in, you know? Why can't I let God in? Why am I still in my ego? Why haven't I made some more progress than I do? Okay, so if you'd like to relax and close your eyes. Just take a few deep breaths to begin with. And with the next breath, just breathe in and tense the muscles of the legs and relax them as you breathe out. And with the next breath, tense the muscles of the stomach and relax as you breathe out. Breathe in through the arms and make fists of the hands, and then relax. Breathe in and tense the shoulders together, squeeze them together, and let go. Lastly, check your neck and head to relax. You can turn them around, loosen them up if you want. There is a presence surrounding you now and always that loves you so deeply and knows you as the eternal formless spirit. More beautiful, wise than you can ever imagine. But this presence knows it, and it's its joy to wake you up to your real reality. Just give a silent prayer of welcome now. Good to be with you. If it helps, see there's a light shining into your body, your heart and mind, or a hand you hold. And it's smiling with such love upon you now. Knows everything about you, but has no judgment of you. It knows we're dealing with surrender here. And our resistance to surrender. And maybe there's an issue there that really you should have done better on this path. Perhaps a feeling of failure. But also there might be another issue for you. And you can turn to this being now and say, what is it I need to work with? What does I need to forgive and let go? Is there something in the body, a pain, or a psychological issue? Is it with somebody else that you're upset with or angry at? Make it real to you. Feel it in the body, this upset, or notice the pain, the physical pain. Or perhaps a feeling comes with feeling a bit of a failure on the path. And where are you holding that in the body? And if there's something else happening to you in this exercise, if there's light just coming, then go with what feels right. Don't follow my words, just move into that light. When you found that area of tension or pain in the body, if you can't, put an accepting hand over that area. Maybe a name comes with it: failure, anger, sadness. Say to yourself, I accept this feeling of, put in the word, it's part of me, I accept it. Just repeat. I accept this feeling, this pain of, it's part of me. I accept it. And say that one last time. And then ask for a symbol, a picture of this pain. Don't try and create one. Just let a symbol come to you. Just describes your issue with yourself or another. If you have a symbol, this is what you created. You feel on some level there's a value in it. As we said earlier, is this a defense against the truth? It keeps you safe, perhaps. But don't judge it, accept it. Be happy that you found something there. And do you want to keep it? Or do you feel is time to be free, time to be healed? And to let it go means that your life will change. And there may be some fear there. While you fear to let it go, spirit can't take it from you. But that's okay. But is it time to be free now? To take that risk? To let it go and walk another path in life? If it is, turn to spirit and say, please transform and heal this symbol. Give me a second healed symbol. And if you have two symbols, which one do you want to keep? Whatever your decision, that's fine. The healed symbol will take you on a different path through life if you accept it. If you choose to accept it, thank the old symbol for protection you felt it gave you. You needed it at the time. Thank it and bless it for what it gave you. In front of you are two doors. The old symbol hangs above the left door, the new symbol above the right door. Go through the door you feel drawn to, open it, and see what life holds for you. There's a path leading from both doors. Choose the one you're guided to. Take what time you need to finish as far as you've gone, accepting as far as you've gone. Then bring yourself back to the room. Welcome back. So welcome back from breakout rooms. And I was just sharing that the laws of manifestation, like attracts like, and when we're in a down space, you know, we get sort of down clouds floating, gravitating towards us. And it can even go as heavy as earthbound spirits who see you light up in the darkness, and they can come and share their darkness with your darkness and just make everything worse. But does anyone want to share anything with the group before we continue?
This was really good for me. I had some strong symbols and some strong feelings. The original symbol was just well, the concept was that I needed. No, I forgot what the concept was. My need to perform. I need to perform for myself and for other people. And the symbol that I got was a vase. And then the second symbol that I got was a brilliantly lit crystal. And when they were placed over the doors, there was no question but that I was going towards the door with the crystal. And inside that door was an endless field of wildflowers. And I laid down in the wildflowers and rolled around and laughed my head off, which is so unlike anything that Sherry would ever do. But it was so beautiful to be able to do that. And I felt the most overwhelming sense of freedom to be able to do that.
Wow, Sherry, that's beautiful. Yay, Sherry. I can see you rolling around in the flowers now. You even look like you've got flowers on the clothes you're wearing, but I'm not sure.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. Right, we got Sherry rolling around in the flowers. Anyone else been up to anything?
Sure, I can briefly share mine.
Yeah.
What I was trying to heal was lack of self-love, and the symbol for, I called it self-hatred, became it was similar to a vase. It was like a wine glass, like a stemless wine glass. And then the symbol for self-love came really, really quickly and easily. And it was me standing on the top of a mountain, like with my arms out and my head up, and just feeling that sense of I've climbed the mountain and I'm free and I'm connected. And so when I had to go through pick the door to go through, there was no question I was going through the door of sort of freedom. And when I opened it, it was immediately, it was a very, very bright green, and it was like a nature scene, but it was more vibrant than anything I've ever seen on this planet. I wish I'd rolled in the flowers like Sherry. That sounds really, really good. But what my body did was it just started to sort of float and to rise above it. And it just kept floating, and it just was like a feeling of like a hug and a warm bath. It just felt so, so good. So it was good. I let go of the bad.
Great. So Jennifer's in the bath. How was the light, Jill?
It was just the light.
Oh no, it was wonderful. It was light. Good.
Yeah, lots of light, very bright. I'm always amazed where, not just where it comes from, but the fact that it's so bright. I sometimes like, when you look up at the sun, even with your eyes closed, and you sort of screw up your eyes a bit because it is so bright. Yeah, that sort of feeling.
I think this happens to you each time, Jill. I think this is your exercise, to just wallow in the light.
Yeah, it's very peaceful. Actually, that's exact. That I did actually think that. I nearly took my thingies out, my earphones, but then I thought I won't know when he's finished. Because it did feel like, you just need to be at peace.
Just a practical tip, you could, it may also be that I'm speaking is helping you move into the light. So if you took the earbuds out, it may or may not improve it. But
No.
next time you could take the earbuds out, and if you're sort of gone into the light, what you'll hear next is you'll be in the breakout room and someone will be talking to you. And so, but if you've got the earbuds out, you won't hear that, will you? I've just thought.
No, I won't hear that. I'd have to. I actually did think, oh, maybe I'll just turn it down, but then this doesn't work. This turning down thing doesn't work on when it's plugged into the laptop.
Okay.
For some reason. So and I would have had to have looked for it on here to turn it down. So that was okay. But that was all right. But what did happen, which I suppose I should say, it's just the light. But just as you were finishing, I sound like, it feels like you won't believe me when I say this, but maybe it's that I don't believe myself, is that Jesus sat down here and he was more real than ever. You know how we sort of sometimes see Jesus and he's a bit wishy-washy, and he's how we, I mean, in the way he looks. And he, you know, if you've grown up in a Christian sort of Bible sort of, he's always got blonde hair. Well, he didn't. He had really black hair and a black beard, short beard, and he just sat there, and then he picked up a book and read it, and I turned, and it was like I was going to turn to him and say, oh, you know, just make yourself comfortable, it's fine, you just stay there. And it's almost like, am I making this up? Do you know what I mean? Am I making, and I just like think, oh, Jill, don't be bloody ridiculous, you know, you're just having yourself on. Do you understand what I'm saying, Bill?
Anyone who describes it the way you describe it is not making it up. You're sort of challenging everything that comes to you. You know, the ones that make it up, they're off with the fairies and their ego is well into it, and they're hoping for people to pat them on the back. But you're always challenging every beautiful thing that comes your way, which is a great hallmark that there's something real happening.
Yeah. Then I don't want to fool myself. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to think more of what I'm doing than I really am. I want to be sure that it's the truth.
Well, as you were made by God and you're the Christ and you're eternal and you're beautiful and you're wise above all things, then surely Jesus could turn up and sit there with you. I know. We've all got it. And we're looking.
It makes me really emotional.
Yeah, of course it does. But it felt good him sitting there, didn't it?
Oh yeah, it always feels good. Yeah.
I think he's probably just saying, please accept me, please let me in. I just want to be your friend. I know what you want. You want me. Here I am. Just let me in.
Well, you should talk a bit more, honestly. He used to talk and stop just sitting there reading a book.
Could that make you more nervous, though, if he started teaching and speaking to you?
No, I want him to do that. I keep asking him to. Or I think, well, maybe it won't be him, but anybody, just talk to me, because it's just the symbols drive me nuts.
Right.
Just stop and just lay it on the line, you know, just do it. I just want some, yeah.
Well, I feel at some point it will suddenly happen for you, Jill. He'll speak or something, and you'll relax, and then a connection will be made. Have you ever thought that you might become a channel at some point, that he might speak through you?
Well, I've always felt that I wanted that to happen, but that's a different thing, isn't it?
Yeah. But maybe, I don't know at all, but what if his speaking is actually speaking through you? Would that be very frightening?
No, not at all.
Okay, just exploring. There's a whole section in the course, I have it here, you know, it's called The Fear of Redemption. We could finish with this one because it's on this theme here. It starts off by saying, you may wonder why it's so crucial that you look upon your hatred and realize its full extent. You may also think that it would be easy enough for the Holy Spirit to show it to you and to dispel it without the need for you to raise it to awareness yourself. It's obviously uncomfortable for us to look at our darkest emotions, our hate, our vengeance. And some people just say, look, I don't want to look at that, just take it away. You know, I know there's darkness there, but it doesn't work that way. You've got to look at it, you've got to see it and decide you don't want it. And then it continues, yet there is one more obstacle apart from this hatred. You have interposed between yourself and the atonement, waking up. You're not really afraid of crucifixion. Your real terror is of redemption. The ego fears God's love above all else because it would shine the ego away. There's a number of fears they list in the course, and the second one is the fear of God, and we're sort of more aware of that. It's in the Bible. We broke up heaven, God's looking for us, he's going to punish us. But the number one fear is the love of God, because no ego can stand the love of God. It just dissolves. It says, the ego fears God's love above all as it would shine it away. As we identify with the ego, we fear to look within. Under the ego's dark foundation is the memory of God. And it is of this that you're really afraid. For this memory would instantly restore you to your proper place. And it is this place that you have sought to leave. We still think separation is better than unity. You think you have made a world God would destroy, and by loving him, which you do, you would throw this world away, which you would. Once, in other words, once God's love is experienced, the offerings of this world will seem as dust. Everything we've pinned our hopes on, our children, our jobs, our husbands, people's thoughts about us, our plans to travel, will be as dust. Therefore, you have used the world to cover your love. The deeper you go into the blackness of the ego's foundation, the closer you come to the love that is hidden there. And it is this that frightens you. Did I ever tell you my confrontation with love and that teacher called Krishnamurti? No, I was like a disciple of this Indian teacher, Jiddu Krishnamurti, for about 12 years. Each year I'd go to southern England, to Brockwood Park, where his school was, and you have these big tents. 2,000 of us would be there. Sometimes go to Switzerland, where he would teach as well. We all dreamed of being able to meet him and talk to him, but he was well protected by his secretaries. And I sort of, after about 11 years, I gave up the idea. After the talk, we go into another tent for food. And I was meandering down that tent one day, and I looked to my right. There was Krishnamurti sitting down, eating his lunch. And I wasn't thinking of him, so my mind was still, and I looked at him. He gave me this sort of serious look back, and I didn't care. I thought, what a wonderful old man he is. And suddenly his face started to change into this sort of beatific smile. And he stood up and he's put his food aside. I'm still looking at him. And then he opened his arms a little and he started to walk towards me. And I ran off to the other side of the tent. I could not take what looked to me as unconditional love. There would have been no Michael left if I stayed there. There would have been no ego left. And I got to the other side of the tent and I looked back and someone seen him standing and gone whoosh and come in and was talking to him. And I thought, I've just blown 11 years. He came to me. I can feel it now. I couldn't take that love. And then I realized, my God, we're afraid of the thing we're most asking for. Now, later that day, it was interesting. It was getting near sunset, and he was sleeping up in a top room. And I just happened to look up. He was leaning out of the window, waving at me at a very safe 200-meter distance up in the air. So I could stand there and wave back to him. I could accept love at that distance. It wasn't later till I came across the Course in Miracles that it was explained to me. You're more frightened of that real love than anything else in the world because you won't exist in its presence. Well, there we are, folks. So looking back, it was a wonderful lesson. I really understood something, you know. I missed my conversation, but I've read all of his books, so I knew everything. But I learned about what I want is the needy, dependent, conditional love, and not the real thing. I can't take it.
Well, is it possible that you didn't miss anything? You got exactly what you were supposed to get?
I think I did. It was the perfect lesson. My ego disagreed, my spiritual ego. You've missed the conversation.
Yeah.
It might have been nothing much.
Right.
But I got the huge lesson.
Yeah.
That was wonderful. Yeah. Wow. Well, anything we like to share before we finish this great session today? How you doing, Joe?
Yeah, I think that hit home, didn't it?
Oh, what nice timing.
Have I ever told you about, just quickly, the dream? It is a dream, not a meditation, and I have had the same dream for many, many years. It's not always with Jesus, or it's with a man, and I presume it is him, but it's not always the same man. And it's going to be very hard to put this into words because there really are no words. And when I say it in words, it diminishes the feeling. So anyway, I'm walking down a road somewhere, or just walking anywhere with this person, and I'm just I'm linking arms. And this is where it all goes wrong, to put it into words. The feeling is that there is nothing to worry about. There's just so much love. You see, all these words are meaningless. It's like everything's perfect. I have nothing to worry about. It's just complete peace, acceptance. Nothing could ever go wrong in my life. Now, all those words couldn't, I can get the feeling now, actually. It's not that they mean nothing. To say those words takes away from it. Yeah. Because there are no words to describe that feeling. But it's wonderful. Shame it, you know, like it's different people, and I don't even know who these people are, but to me it represents spirit, or whatever you want to call it, that I'm with. And when I wake up, I want to go back to the dream, because it's nothing you could ever have in the world with anybody.
Beautiful, beautiful. It seems very close to you, Jill. Just got to open the door, I think.
Yeah.
How lovely. How lovely. Thank you for sharing that. And the Course says you can't judge, you know, how close or far you are, you know. It says sometimes what you think your greatest mistakes was your biggest step forward. And what you thought was your biggest step forward was actually going backwards. And so it also says, you know, love waits on welcome. It could come immediately. So it's still waiting for an instant acceptance, but most of us need to take a bit of time. The shock might kill us. Well, another wonderful session for you three great ladies and myself.
I'm glad you came, Jennifer, because even though I would have been happy to go to the other one, Michael, the 6 o'clock, I know you guys, Sherry, you couldn't have gone because it was in the middle of the night. I would have gone, but and I'm sure the people are fabulous, but it's just actually really nice meeting with the same people.
Isn't it?
Yes.
I was saying that. Yeah, I was saying that to Jennifer. We build something here. There's a sort of a trust, and we can talk about what we like.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks for saying that, Jill. I agree. It's a really nice community. Yeah.
So I
Yes.
think there's a lot of light going out from this little Zoom group. And I was saying to Jennifer, I think, they tell us it's all vibration. So we had 2 people join us last week, Bjorn.
Bjorna, is it
Bjorn
Bjorna?
from Europe.
Yeah.
And a woman joined us. She says she can't contribute much at the moment because she's in so many groups, but she's come to learn Course in Miracles. So we actually gained 2 more, and Bjorn has come into the groups as well. So I think over time we'll see this group slowly growing, which would be a nice way for it to do. But as I say, with you, I treasure these times as well. There's 4 squares on the picture here. Okay, that's lovely. So I'll see some of you perhaps in a couple of weeks for the healing sessions.
Yes.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Good to be with you today.
Thanks
Thank
very much.
you. Bye, all.
Bye.
Bye.